A married couple were going out for the evening and called in a teenage babysitter to take care of their 3 children. When she arrived, they told her they probably wouldn't be back until late and that the kids were already asleep, so she needn't disturb them. The babysitter starts doing her homework while awaiting a call from her boyfriend. After a while, the phone rings. She answers it, but hears no one on the other end, just silence. Then whoever it is hangs up. After a few more minutes, the phone rings again. She answers, and this time there's a man on the line who says, in a chilling voice, "Have you checked on the children yet?" Click. At first she thinks it might have been the father calling to check up, and he got interrupted, so she decides to ignore it. She goes back to her homework when the phone rings again. "Have you checked the children?" says the creepy voice on the other end. "Mr. Murphy?" she asks, but the caller hangs up. She decides to phone the restaurant where the parents said they'd be dining, but when she asks for Mr. Murphy, she is told that he and his wife have left the restaurant 45 minutes earlier. She calls the police and reports that a stranger has been calling her and hanging up. "Has he threatened you?" the dispatcher asks. "No," she says. "Well, then there's nothing that we can really do about it. You could try reporting the prank caller to the phone company." A few minutes go by and she gets another call. "Why haven't you checked the children?" the voice says. "Who is this?" she asks, but he hangs up again. She dials 911 again and says, "I'm scared. I know he's out there. He's watching me." "Have you seen him?" the dispatcher asks. She says no. "Well, then there isn't much we can do about it," the dispatcher says. The babysitter goes into panic mode and pleads with him to help her. Now, it'll be okay," he says. "Give me your number and street address, and if you can keep this guy on the phone for at least a minute, we'll try and trace the call." "What was your name again?" "Linda." "Okay, Linda, if he calls back, we'll do our best to trace the call. But just keep calm. Can you do that for me?" "Yes," she says, and hangs up. She decides to turn the lights down so she can see if anyone's outside, and that's when she gets another call. "It's me," the familiar voice says. "Why did you turn the lights down?" "Can you see me?" she asks, panicking. "Yes," he says after a long pause. "Look, you've scared me. I'm shaking. Are you happy? Is that what you wanted?" "No." "Then what do you want?" she asks. Another long pause. "Your blood, all over me." She slams the phone down, terrified. Almost immediately it rings again. "Leave me alone!" she screams, but it's the dispatcher calling back. His voice is urgent. "Linda, we've traced the call. It's coming from another room inside the house. Get out of there, now!" The story I just told you, The Babysitter, is an urban legend. It, along with hundreds of other stories, such as Bloody Mary, The Hitchhiker, etc., have been circulating for centuries. These are all stories, or rather myths, that can be traced back through time. So what is an urban legend? Typically, an urban legend can be defined as an oral story passed on from person to person without the story actually happening to anybody known in existence. It happened to a friend or Shannon's cousin. Rarely, unlike a narrative or a fiction story, can an urban legend be sourced out in origin. These are tales of terror and woe that happen to the unsuspecting girl, home alone, or the lovebirds on the first romantic date. Rarely do urban legends follow an exact story or plot. Usually there are several versions floating around with different characters or final outcomes, yet the gist of the story will remain the same. And contrary to belief, urban part has nothing to do with physical location of the story, such as a city, but everything to do with the modernization of the story. So why would any normal human being want to scare themselves by retelling these horrible tales? According to David Emery, a journalist with an avid imagination and a BA in philosophy, urban legends are desirable for several reasons. As human beings, we are natural storytellers. We like a good story, we like a good movie, we like to see how things turn out. It's our natural inclination to be creative. Urban legends also serve as a way to make sense out of scenarios that we can't possibly comprehend, or that we are emotionally unable to deal with. Most importantly, though, Urban legends serve as warning stories. They are meant to scare our children into right behavior. Young ladies, if you venture into that forest with your boyfriend to be naughty, the hook will get you. If you are naive enough to pick up a hitchhiker, don't be surprised if you never drive again. These stories are much like fairy tales in that they serve as lessons to be learned. So if Susie does decide to go to Lover's Lane, will she uncontestably be killed by the hook? Are there any basis to these stories or legends? The short answer is yes. Some urban legends are thought to be based off of true happenings, although the truth in the legend is generally small. Case in point, the legend of the couple who visits a hotel room only to be awakened repeatedly over and over by a horrible stench. Upon waking in the morning, they are horrified to find the source of the stench is in fact a dead body hidden between the mattresses. Crazy, right? This did indeed happen. What's more is that it's happened on more than one occasion. It's happened in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, Kansas City. Additionally, it's happened several times in California and Florida. But if you take just a few moments to think this one over, it does make a sort of sense. Unfortunately, murders do happen on a regular basis, and many of these murders are in bad neighborhoods and seedy motels. Many drug dealers and prostitutes are around. And if you think about it, bodies do fit in and under beds, so mystery solved there. But the next time you hear the creepy story about Jesse's cousin's best friend being buried alive with spiders, you might just take heed.